if we shift gears here a little bit,
Right.
Igor, and talk about today's world of, today's social media world, we see individualism on the rise, which, typically translates to things like greater self-reliance, but also, as you note, it also tends to lead to greater narcissism. And so, around this wise reasoning, we have people obviously on, Instagram or taking photos of themselves, posting, this generation obviously very different from generations past in that sense. So when we look at, intelligence is on the rise, which is terrific, but how can we not sacrifice this ability to communicate effectively and to reason wisely amongst groups?
That's a very good question. And if I knew the answer to that
Yeah.
question, I would probably not be on the podcast. But no, but jokes aside, I think the issues here are structural, and it is very scary. I mean, because the world we live in today, we do glorify this hyper-individualism. Just think about the influencers on social media. I yet have to find an influencer who is influencing because of their hyper-social, self-sacrificial nature. Most of them are the epitomes of this kind of narcissism and individualism, one way or another. They're incredibly unique individuals. That's the whole point of being an influencer, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And we have quite a bit of that, and we glorify that. And as long as we continue glorifying those features instead of, I mean, it's weird because when you think about it, would you want to glorify somebody who's really balanced and moderate and who is not really emphasizing that they're really good? It's sort of like think about it's almost like the opposite of one of those quotes by the current U.S. president, where he was once asked, I think last year, 2 years ago, or maybe it was before the election, if he is humble, and he just said that I'm the most humble person. You have no idea how you can't even comprehend how humble I am. And I was like, really? Okay. So
it's a tough one.
right. So if somebody then does act, and if you want to emphasize humility, especially interpersonal humility, not jumping to conclusions immediately, reaching across the currently topics of great interest, political aisles, those people are not striking one as sort of most exciting. And we live in a time of sort of attention economy where it's all about excitement. It's about grabbing somebody's attention for a few seconds. So I don't quite know what to do about this. I do think that just a general shift in the dialogue from dialogue that emphasizes excellence and remarkable abilities in something that is like singular, either be it intelligence or be it a particular type of sports or something else, towards a more sort of holistic picture where you would think about, not how wonderful you were because you did X, but instead of that, about like a balance of multiple factors. Maybe one way to go about this. The other thing is just to have a more healthy discourse, either through podcasts like this one or other means, where we would not just write about influencers and President Trump or whatnot, who are clearly remarkable and unique in their own ways, for better or for worse. But also talk about stories of people who did potentially make sacrifices for the benefit of others, and talk about those who did show some uncertainty and doubt in their life. Well, one big issue that we have today, in addition to this hyper individualism that goes hand in hand, by the way, is this unwillingness to admit mistakes and to show uncertainty. If you think about medical professionals in particular, it's almost dangerous, right? Like, I think about what doctor would want to say, well, actually, I don't know what you have. I mean, just think about it. It's like I yet have to meet a doc whom I will come to, and they will tell me, I don't know what you have. And in many cases, it is a guess. especially if it's a complex disorder, right?
Yeah, chronic
The
conditions
complex
are all
disease.
complex, right? It's
Yeah,
it's
very
obviously the
complex.
best guess of the practitioner, their experience, and for sure.
Yeah, but admit to yourself that this is just a guess, and I really need more information. Those are only the best doctors do that, and only for maybe very threatening diseases. So, bottom line is, so this type of idea of recognizing your humility and counteracting the ever-increasing pressure to be hyper-confident and very, very unique, because if you're not unique, then you're not interesting. Those are the processes that we somehow have to combat. And I think just the general societal discourse on this topic has to shift. But I don't have a clear-cut solution to how exactly to do that.
Oh, I mean, that's very well said. And, I'd love to get your thoughts on the performance side of things as well. I often hear from in elite and professional sport from performance staffs that the young crop of sports scientists coming out are, incredibly intelligent and able to do things at a younger age than they were never able to do. But one of the shortcomings is this ability to sort of communicate their findings effectively, to sort of integrate with the teams and or with the hierarchies in terms of relaying the messages to whether it's the lead sports scientist or the manager of the squad, of the team. And again, that sort of strikes me as this, whether it's a conflict or not, I guess this is another question, but around relaying information to someone who's of a quote unquote higher social class and how you do that, or if you have any thoughts around that inability to be able to I guess really dig very deep with their analysis, but not be able to improve in terms of their breadth or their ability to communicate that information.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. How do you nurture this type of consideration of others' perspectives, the ability to integrate and cooperate with them? I mean, I guess in the sport context where it is hyper-personal, where it's about, your income to some extent, maybe one way to think about it is if you can emphasize that it's not me versus them, but rather it's a sort of a group project. I mean, it seems so obvious what I'm saying, but it's so easy, especially in the sport competitive context where it is ultimately a me versus them, but just accept that it's on the group level, right? Like you constantly compete with somebody else, either with another sport team and so on and so forth, or if it's individual sport, obviously you compete with others. So there, the focus is always on it's zero sum in a sense. Like that's a term from economics, from game theory. That means that you view it as somebody will lose, somebody has to lose, and somebody will win. And I think that is, of course, the case when you have teams competing against each other. However, within a team, the process doesn't have to replicate, and in fact, it's to emphasize that you will have a greater chance of winning if it is about group performance. So maybe not even focus on winning, but just really focus on having a group coherence. So the goal is not just about winning, not just about showing how good you are, but it's about having fun within your group. Maybe that's something that can help. I mean, of course, it's hard to say that when there's a lot of money involved, and the money is individual in this case. But I guess emphasizing that your group will perform even better if you focus on the group instead of if you focus on the individual, and make people aware of the difference between their group performance on the one hand and some kind of like so that the competition happens on the level of the group, but not doesn't have to happen in the same way within the group. It's detrimental. That could help. I think ultimately it's also about just paying attention to others and maybe putting people who are in the other strategy, people who are more advanced, more mature, in a mentorship position. So like as mentors potentially of younger players on the same team. And I think that happens quite often. I mean, either explicitly or indirectly, where that by itself could develop sort of awareness of the degree of dependence between the two group members. And under many circumstances, this dependence can be healthy because it may help you to realize their perspectives and their concerns instead of just your concerns.